Welcome guys, welcome to my channel. It's Vishnu here from Just Simplicity. Okay, so in the previous video I had already mentioned that I would be covering in the subsequent video regarding tournament rules or competition rules according to the FIDE handbook or the FIDE laws of chess. So I'm here with that video right now in front of you. So let's directly get into the topic, and this is a dry topic, and you might feel kind of bored by this because it's going to be pure laws, and we are going to deal with only laws and rules and regulations and nothing else. So but I still insist and highly recommend that you watch this video till the end, because you're a beginner, and if you're a beginner or if you're a chess enthusiast and you want to get acquainted with the major rules, the most important rules, tournament rules when it comes to chess. So I recommend that you watch and listen to this video till the end, so that you are aware of all this. You need to be aware of the rules before you start playing the game, right? Otherwise it makes no sense. Without knowing the rules, you should not start playing a game, else you will be in trouble. So please watch this video till the end. Okay, so let's start with the chess clock. So I hope many of you may not be aware of what a chess clock is. I will show you the image of a chess clock first. So this is a chess clock. So you can see there are two sides to it, one here and one here. There are two time displays, and you can see a bar which is pointed upwards. This means that this side of the display will start ticking once the opponent presses the bar over here. Similarly, once you make a move, you should press this bar on your side and the other side will come up, and this time this display of the clock will start ticking. And these are the various controls, these 5 buttons which you see, in order to set the clock into various formats like rapid, blitz or classical formats. Okay, so let's get back to the rules anyway. So that is a chess clock. So a chess clock means a clock with 2 time displays connected to each other in such a way that only one of them can run at one time. Clock in the laws of chess means one of the 2 time displays. Each time display has a flag. Flagfall means the expiration of the allotted time for a player. So here, a flagfall means nothing but you have run out of time. So once you have run out of time, you lose the game. Okay. Before the start of the game, the arbiter decides where the clock is placed, where the chess clock is placed. That is, these rules which I'm talking about is applied for over-the-board tournaments, not for online tournaments. So in online tournaments, I mean there is already a digital clock, but whereas in a over-the-board tournament, you have a physical clock there, and that's what I'm talking about here. All these rules which I'm talking about is applied for over-the-board tournaments, not for online tournaments. There might be some similarities for online chess too, but here I'm particularly concentrating only on over-the-board tournaments. Okay, so the arbiter can decide which side the clock was placed, which means he can. Earlier there used to be a rule called the clock should be placed on the right hand side of the player who is playing the black pieces. Now that rule has been taken away and a new rule has been brought in. So the arbiter can decide which side the clock must be placed. He can place it either on the left side of you or on the right side of you. So depending upon the arbiter's choice. At the time determined for the start of the game, the clock of the player who has the white pieces is started. It clearly means that one who is playing the white pieces, his clock starts ticking first. Any player who arrives at the chessboard after the start of the session shall lose the game. Thus, the default time is 30 minutes. The rules of competition may specify otherwise. Here it means a zero tolerance rule. There exists many zero tolerance rule in many chess tournaments, especially FIDE tournaments and in high level tournaments. Here it means that if you don't arrive at the chessboard exactly at that time, exactly at that moment when the round starts, then you lose the game immediately. That is, you lose the game through walkover. Your opponent would be given a walkover and he will win a point and you will lose the point. Of course, it won't affect your FIDE rating because you have not played the game, but you will lose a point anyway for that particular round which you have not appeared or you came late due to some reason, due to any reason it may be. But whereas some tournaments have exceptions to zero tolerance rule. I mean, exceptions in the sense the organizer doesn't keep a zero tolerance rule for that particular tournament. He may give a leisure time of say 15 minutes or something like that, depending upon the tournament organizer. The organizer decides it. Okay. Now, if the rules of a competition specify a different default time, the following shall apply. If neither player is present initially, the player who has the white pieces shall lose all the time that elapses until he arrives, unless the rules of competition specify or the arbiter decides otherwise. Which means, say that in a tournament you are playing a rapid tournament, 25 minutes each, and you are playing white, and if you are late to appear, the game will be decided as a walkover only after all the 25 minutes from your side of the clock is completely used up. I mean, it's completely expired. Until then, the walkover will not be given. So say that after 10 minutes you arrive and you still have 15 minutes left, then you can continue playing the game. And you can start the game and continue playing the game, but you will be playing with only 15 minutes left on your clock. You cannot get the 10 minutes which you have lost. Okay, during the game, each player having made his move on the chessboard shall stop his own clock and start his opponent's clock. A player must always be allowed to stop his clock. His move is not considered to have been completed until he has done so, unless the move that was made ends the game. Which means that once you have made a move, it is your duty to press your side of the clock. And your move is said to be completed only after you press the clock. In case you forget it and run out of time, then it's your mistake, and the opponent will not remind you. He will never remind you. It's not his duty to remind you that you have not pressed your clock. So don't expect your opponent to remind you. Beginners, they get angry because sometimes they forget to press the clock and they expect others to remind them, but that's not going to happen in an actual tournament. It's your duty and you have to remember it all the time. If you don't do that, then you lose the game on time, that's for sure. Okay, a player must stop his clock with the same hand as that which he made his move. It is forbidden for a player to keep his finger on the button or to hover over it, which means that you should if you're right-hander and if you move your piece with the right pieces, then with the same hand you should press the clock. You cannot use your left hand. Okay, and vice versa. It is forbidden for a player to keep his finger on the button or to hover over it, which means you cannot keep your fingers on the clock and prevent your opponent from pressing from the other end. So no such mischievous things. Once you have pressed the clock, put your hand away from the clock and wait for your opponent's next turn. The players must handle the chess clock properly. It is forbidden to punch it forcibly, to pick it up, or to knock it over. Improper clock handling shall be penalized in accordance with Article 13.4. So it means that when you're given a clock, it's your duty to handle it properly. Don't mess with the clock and spoil it or break it in any manner whatsoever. Okay, a flag is considered to have fallen when the arbiter observes a fact or when either player has made a valid claim to that effect. Say for example, you are playing a classical tournament and used up all your time, and if you have used up all your time, your opponent may not have noticed it and he might continue playing, thinking that there is time on your side of the clock. But if the arbiter was watching the game and if he finds out that your side of the clock has used up all the time and the time has elapsed, then the arbiter has got the right to interfere and immediately declare the game as lost for the guy or the player who has used up all his time. It's a duty of the arbiter to do it, and so it is not a violation of any rule. It is FIDE allows the arbiter to do it, and it's their duty to do it. Okay. Now, if a player does not complete the prescribed number of moves in the allotted time, the game is lost by the player. However, the game is drawn if the position is such that the opponent cannot checkmate the player's king by any possible series of legal moves. Sometimes there are restrictions in the time formats restriction to the moves within the time format. For example, in some tournaments, this happens only in high level tournaments. where they have say that 1 hour 30 minutes you have to finish in 40 moves within 1 hour 30 minutes, and if you're not able to complete 40 moves within it, then you lose on time immediately. But if you have reached an endgame position by that time, by any means, and you lose on time, but your opponent has only say a bishop or a knight left, and if he cannot mate you using that piece alone, then by making any legal moves, then the game will be declared as drawn instead of lost. Okay. If during a game it is found that the setting of either or both the clocks was incorrect, either the player or the arbiter shall stop the clocks immediately. The arbiter shall install the correct setting and adjust the times and move counter. He shall use his best judgment when determining the correct settings. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, no. A player may stop the clocks only in order to seek the arbiter's assistance. For example, when promotion has taken place and the piece required is not available. Which means, say in the endgame your pawn has reached the 7th rank, and on the next turn you are about to promote it to a queen, but you have no extra queen with you. Maybe you already have one queen on the board and you want another queen. So what you do is you have to immediately stop, and you can call the arbiter and ask him for an extra piece or an extra queen, which the arbiter will grant you. But if you have stopped the clock without any valid reason, then the arbiter has the right to penalize you. This penalizing might be taken in such a way, maybe he would give more time to his opponent because you have not made a valid claim, or so. Most often that's the case. Irregularities. If during a game it is found that the initial position of the pieces was incorrect, the game shall be cancelled and a new game played. Which means beginners normally make a mistake of they forget to see the board, whether the right side and whether the bottom right corner of your right is actually a white square or a light square. So they might set up the board with irregularities. So they might even mess up with the king and queen. Instead of keeping the king on e1, they might place it on d1 and the queen on e1. So you have set up the board wrong. So if you start the game without realizing that you have set up the board wrong, set up the pieces wrong, then if it comes to the notice of the arbiter, then he would cancel that game and he will restart the game with the correct setup of the pieces and the board. If during a game it is found that an illegal move, including failing to meet the requirements of the promotion of a pawn or capturing the opponent's king, has been completed, the position immediately before the irregularity shall be reinstated. Which means, say that you give a check to your opponent and you simply capture. As beginners make such mistake capturing the king, they think it is the right way of doing it. So if you make such illegal moves, the arbiter has to right to revert the position one move prior to the illegal move that has been made, and he might penalize you by giving 2 minutes more to your opponent. And this applies to the second illegal move also. When you make a second illegal move, again 2 minutes will be provided to your opponent. But after you make the third illegal move, your game will be declared as lost unless the opponent has no pieces to checkmate you in any manner whatsoever. The recording of the moves. In the course of play, each player is required to record his own moves and those of his opponent in the correct manner, move after move, as clearly and legibly as possible, in the algebraic notation on the score sheet prescribed for the competition. Which means, when writing notation on the score sheet, you should clearly write it, which means it should be with good clarity so that others can recognize what you have written, and it should be in good handwriting. Because say that there might be instances where you make claims and the arbiter has to come and replay the whole game, and if the notation is not clear, and there's no way he can know what has been played over the board. So it is your duty to see that you have written the notation in a clear and legible manner. Okay. Both players must record the offer of draw on the score sheet. It applies to both the players, or the opponent as well as you. Say that one of you makes a draw offer. immediately on, say that on the 13th move, you make a draw offer. So against move number 13, you must mention an equal to sign, an equal to symbol. That indicates that one of you has asked a draw offer. Once I made a mistake in my childhood where I didn't mention the equal to sign, and my arbiter pointed it out, and he reminded me that it should be done. So don't make such mistakes. If a player has less than 5 minutes left on his clock at some stage in a period and does not have additional time of 30 seconds or more added with each move, then for the remainder of the period he is not obliged to meet the requirements of Article 8.1. Which means that if you're playing a tournament with the time format with a time format which has no increment, then you're not liable to continue writing the score sheet when you have reached your last 5 minutes of your side of the clock. When you have only, which means if you have only 5 minutes left on your clock, and if it is not an increment mode, then you're not obliged to continue writing the notation. You are free to stop writing and completely focus on the game. Whereas in an increment mode, if you're getting 30 seconds, for example, if you're getting 30 seconds extra for every move, which is also called the Fisher mode of chess, where you will be given 30 seconds extra for every move that you make. In such a case, in such a format, you are liable to write the score sheet, write the notation until the end of the game. So you have no choice there. The drawn game. The rules of a competition may specify that players cannot agree to a draw, whether in less than a specified number of moves or at all, without the consent of the arbiter. Yeah. So here in high level tournaments, very high level tournaments, about 2700 rating level tournaments, they have this rule where the organizers say that you cannot agree to a draw offer within the first 30 moves. But if the arbiter, you can make a claim, it's an exception given. If you call the arbiter and he comes to look at the position and decide whether no progress can be made or not, in such a case, and exceptions are made and draws can be declared. But otherwise, in high level tournaments, there is this limitation that within 30 moves, within the first 30 moves, you cannot ask a draw offer. You cannot declare a draw by agreement. But in local tournaments, these rules does not exist, especially in India. If you see, there are many local federated tournaments and they do not have such a rule. But there are some rules that you must follow still, which here clearly they mention. A player wishing to offer a draw shall do so after having made a move on the chessboard and before stopping his clock and starting the opponent's clock. So what you do is, here it means that, say that after 23 moves you would like ask a draw offer to your opponent, so you can make your move, but before pressing your side of the clock, you can ask a draw offer to your opponent, and he has the right, once you made the draw offer, he has the right to accept it or to reject it, and he can do that in two ways. Either he can reject it orally by saying that no, I would like to continue the game and so I decline your draw offer, or he can decline it quietly by making his next move over the board, which means that he has declined your draw offer. And also the draw offer stands only for one move. It is on the very next turn your opponent has to agree or decline your draw offer. After he has made his move, and if the opponent is saying that no, I agree to your draw offer, maybe he realized that he made a bad move or something like that, well, then the offer doesn't hold good. Offer doesn't hold good because it has expired. It holds good, it has the validity of only one move. Okay. Here, the game is drawn upon a correct claim by the player having the move when the same position for at least the third time, not necessarily by repetition of moves, is about to appear. If he first writes his move on his score sheet and declares to the arbiter his intention to make this move, or has just appeared and the player claiming the draw has the move. Which means that, to put it in simple terms, if in the middle game or in the end game or in any phase of the game, you realize that the same position has repeated 3 times with the same color to move, then you can go ahead and claim a draw, and arbiter will immediately declare the game as drawn. It so happened in one game that against a federated player called G.S. Tani, I was playing in Mangalore Federated, and I claimed a draw offer, and the arbiter came and checked my board and the moves. He replayed it over another board, and he found out that it was not my turn. Even though the position has repeated 3 times, it was not my turn, and so my claim could not be considered valid, and he penalized me by giving more time to my opponent. I think 2 minutes or something he gave extra time to my opponent. So please make sure that when you make this it's also called as a photographic position, where the position is repeated 3 times and it should be with the same color to move. Say that you are making the claim after the position is repeated 3 times, it should be your turn to move, or the position has repeated 3 times before you make your move, which would repeat the position the 3rd time. You can then claim before making the move as well. So make sure that it is the same position repeated with the same color to move. No compromise in that. Okay. The game is drawn upon a correct claim by the player having the move if he writes his move on his score sheet and declares to the arbiter his intention to make this move, which shall result in the last 50 moves having been made by each player without the movement of any pawn and without any capture, or the last 50 consecutive moves have been made by each player without the movement of any pawn and without any capture. Which means this normally happens in the end game where only few pieces are left on the board, or it can happen when the pawns have no square to move forward. It has been obstructed by enemy pawns or pieces, and so you are able to move only your king and other pieces, but not your pawns. And if you continue like that by moving only the other pieces and not the pawns for 50 consecutive moves and without any capture, that is, you don't make any exchanges or capturing other pieces of your opponent, and vice versa, the opponent also should not capture any pieces of yours. And if no such exchanges happen, then the game can be declared as a draw. It is called as the 50 move rule. And it can also happen with pawns and without pawns. Say that you have a bishop and knight, and it's very tough to mate with a bishop and knight because not many know about it in the end game, and it takes more time it takes at least, I think with great accuracy, it takes at least 26 to 30 moves maybe. And if you don't know how to mate with the bishop and knight, it might take even more than 50 moves to mate. But if your opponent claims that within 50 moves you're not able to mate him, in spite of having a bishop and knight up, the game will be declared a draw because you couldn't mate him within 50 moves. Okay, the game is drawn when a position is reached from which a checkmate cannot occur by any possible series of legal moves. This immediately ends the game provided that the move producing this position was legal. Which means that say that your opponent has 2 knights extra and you don't have any pawns or any pieces left, just a king, and your opponent has king and 2 knights. So you can declare this game as a draw because with 2 knights your opponent cannot checkmate you. So you can immediately claim a draw and the position will be declared as a drawn, and the game will be declared as drawn. Next is quick play finish. Quick play finish is the phase of the game when all the remaining moves must be made in a limited time. This is the last phase of the game where, say, it happens in some tournaments where they have this rule like you have to make 60 moves in 1 hour and the rest of the 20 moves in another 25 minutes and the rest of the 30 minutes in till the end. So the last 30 minutes you have got to completely end the game. You don't have any increment or anything extra. You have to finish the game within 30 minutes or so. I mean, it depends upon the format of the game. So I'm just giving you an example. So in such a case, if the player having the move has less than 2 minutes left on his clock, he may claim a draw before his flag falls. Flag falls, I already explained, before you run out of time, you can claim a draw. Say that if you have 2 minutes left on your clock, less than 2 minutes left on your clock, you can immediately stop the clock and claim. But on what grounds? I'll be saying that on the grounds that your opponent, that is the opponent is making no effort to win the game by normal means, or that it is not possible to win by normal means, then he shall declare the game drawn. Otherwise, he shall postpone his decision or reject the claim. Which means, say that you have reached a close position. I'm giving you an example where no progress can be made. The pawns are stuck and only the pieces can move here and there. But you have less time on your clock, and so but your opponent has got more time or enough time. So he simply plays up and down, waiting around the bush, trying to win you on time. So in such a situation, you can claim a draw, stating that, see, my opponent is not making any progress to win the game. He's not making any advancements to create a breakthrough to win the game. All the while he has been playing around and without any concrete reason, just to win on time. You can tell the arbiter this, and he'll come and investigate the whole situation, and he will declare the game as drawn. But if your game is not valid, then the opponent shall be awarded 2 extra minutes of time, as mentioned here. Points. So points is the score after you have, depending on the result of the game. So if you have won a game, you get 1 point. If you have lost a game, you get 0 points. And if you have drawn a game, you get half a point. The conduct of the players, which means the behavior of the players during a tournament. The players shall take no action that will bring the game of chess into disrepute, which means you're not supposed to bring you're not supposed to behave in such a way that spoils the spirit of the game, or showing any bad sportsmanship skill set. And so these things you should have in your mind. So, and there's something else also. During play, the players are forbidden to make use of any notes, sources of information, or advice or analyze on another chessboard. Which means, while playing an over-the-board tournament, you're not supposed to use anything for your assistance towards the game that you're playing. That is, it could be a book, or your personal handwritten notes, or it could be a mobile phone where you analyze, and you might be caught cheating, and you might be severely penalized if you use any assistance. So, and you're not supposed to analyze on another chessboard also. Okay. So without the permission of the arbiter, a player is forbidden to have a mobile phone or other electronic means of communication in the playing venue unless they are completely switched off. And okay, so it means you cannot bring a mobile phone or electronic weapon. Even an analog watch is not allowed in the playing hall. You're not supposed to bring it. In case you have brought it, you have to remove it and give it to the arbiter or to anyone in charge for that particular round that you're playing. And in case you forget, and if your mobile phone is not switched off and it turns on, or if someone might call you by mistake and the phone turns on, if it creates a sound, if it produces a sound, then you shall lose your game immediately. The opponent shall win. However, if the opponent cannot win the game by any series of legal moves, his score shall be draw. But this happens rarely, because it happens rarely, only in the end game or something like that, where when you're left with no pieces or something like that. But usually when it happens, you lose the game immediately if your mobile phone switches on and if it creates any sound or anything like that. Okay, smoking is permitted only in the section of the venue designated by the arbiter. If you're a heavy smoker, please don't smoke while playing, or any of the playing venues where it is not allowed or prohibited from doing so. So you should, there might be a smoking area given for you, especially for those who want to smoke. So you must go there and smoke, and not smoke in the venue. Players who have finished their game shall be considered to be spectators. So you should not, once you have completed a game, you should not go here and there and create problems for other players, disturbing them. So you're considered as one among the audience, and you should stay as far away from them as possible. Go far away from the menu and sit in the spectator hall or something if you want to watch and follow the games, and don't stay in the tournament venue hall, the main venue. The role of the arbiter. I've already mentioned what is an arbiter. He's like an umpire in cricket. He looks after the proceedings, whether everyone are following the rules and regulation, whether all the players are following the rules and regulations of the tournament. He observes all this, and he's the authority there, who has got the right to penalize the players who make mistakes with the rules. The arbiter shall see that the laws of chess are strictly observed. The arbiter shall act in the best interest of the competition. He should ensure that a good playing environment is maintained and that the players are not disturbed. He shall supervise the progress of the competition. I think it's pretty straightforward. You can understand what it means. Okay guys, so that's it. It's pretty lengthy. There are many other rules as well, but these are the most common rules, that popular ones that you should know. And before playing a game, you should get acquainted with all the rules, because only then you will not make any silly mistakes or mistakes which is detrimental to you and to the game. I'll be covering one more video on the different time formats, FIDE time formats in the tournament games, for the tournaments, like classical, rapid, blitz, and bullet as well. So I'll be explaining that in the next video. So if you have any doubts or comments, please post. If you have any doubts, please post it in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, just mention it in the comments so that I could know about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you are able to get something insightful from this. I know it's a dry topic, and you might find it boring because it's plain text and there's nothing else in this. But it's very important. It cannot be skipped. So if you got something insightful from this, if I made you acquainted with some of the major rules in chess, I'm happy. And please give me a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. That's it. Thanks a lot. I hope you can take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Good night. Bye bye.